Welcome back. When we put up registration, we allowed people, and if you're on this, you're one of those people. We allowed everybody to say, kind of, what would you like to get from this summit? And many, many, many questions or responses, probably I would say over two-thirds maybe, were how practical ways for how AI can be used in Catholic fundraising. Okay, so I mentioned that AI and AI adoption is on a spectrum, right? We're all at different spots along that spectrum. So I'm going to use my 15 minutes of our next hour to actually kind of dive in and talk about how AI works, because I think understanding the technology helps. I know understanding the technology allows you to be more familiar with what's possible and what you can do. All right. So, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Grok, you've probably heard of all of them. Those are the four biggest models. I got started with ChatGPT making images. I forgot. I actually used Grok to turn old family images into little 7-second videos. You guys remember doing that? My wife's grandfather has this great picture of him in his army uniform, and I turned that into a video using Grok, and he's kind of dancing around, and sent that to my wife, sent that to her parents, and her mom actually kind of got tears in their eyes to like kind of imagine her dad dancing around. So, anyways, so these are the engines. Lots of specialized tools are built on top of these four. So, think Microsoft Copilot runs on the same technology as ChatGPT. Khan Academy, their tutor, Matt, you're talking about a tutor. Their tutor is built on it, and so is our own Copilot Pete, who I just mentioned a minute ago. But the question is, how do they work? AI tools have four components, right? The interface, the knowledge, the brain, and the memory. At least in a very simplified way that I understand it and that I'm going to help you understand it is these four. All right. The first one, the interface, this is the easy one. Before ChatGPT, the interface really didn't exist for most of us, right? Developers could build AI into other programs, so you're using it without ever knowing it. But think about like Google Maps, right? Figuring out your route, or Netflix deciding what to recommend you watch next. These were AI that was built into other apps, but we didn't have an interface for that. Well, that changed in 2022 when OpenAI released ChatGPT. That was the first time that normies like you and me could go and just type in a question and get an answer back. Right now, these platforms let you type a question, talk to it, send a photo, upload a document. All of that is called multimodal input, and it's only getting better. Right, so that's the interface. The second piece is the knowledge, and this is what AI learns from, right? So all these companies have spent years training their models on billions of documents. So think about cookbooks, websites, Reddit threads, physical books, all of it. But here's the part that everybody gets wrong. The model does not file those documents away in a library to look up later. Sarah, you were talking about kind of, you love to go to a library and look up books. Well, AI works a little bit differently than that. That's not what's happening. During training, the AI models are reading all the text and they're adjusting billions of tiny internal settings so it gets better and better at one single task, which is predicting what words should come next. So then the documents are gone, right? What's left behind is those patterns and that understanding. So when you ask ChatGPT how to make the world's best spaghetti sauce, right? It's not pulling up one specific recipe because that would be inflammatory to all the people who claim that their spaghetti sauce is the best in the world, right? But what it's doing is it's generating a brand new answer based on everything that it's absorbed about how good spaghetti sauce tends to work. So compare it to kind of like a chef who's cooked 10,000 meals, right? She's not flipping through a recipe card every time somebody says, "Hey, can you make some spaghetti sauce?" She's internalized how flavors work together, and she improvises things now on the spot that works. So this is closer to what AI is doing. Right. And so that matters more than it sounds because it explains why AI sometimes just make things up. Right. It's improvising from patterns. It can hand you something that sounds completely confident and is completely wrong. But that's where the human element comes in. So, for example, years ago, or I guess a year ago, I was working on a course and I needed a statistic that supported my theory that using positive language, so is this a good time, resulted in better responses during sales calls. So I go to ChatGPT and I say, give me some examples of this. And so it gave me a couple, and one of them was a Harvard Business Review that article that said people that get a 40% better response when they use positive language on a sales call. So I sent that over to Ren, who was putting the course together, and he pings me a couple days later, and he was like, "Hey, I can't find this Harvard Business Review article. Can you send me the link?" So I go and I ask Chat. I said, "Where did you find that Harvard Business Review article?" It was a 2017 article. Okay, well, I send that to Ren, and he says, "Nope, can't find it." So it actually. So then I went back to Chat and I said, "I can't find it. Where's the citation?" And Chat responds, "Well, actually, it doesn't exist, but it kind of sounds good, doesn't it? Like it sounds like a study that could work." I was like, "Chad, what are you doing to me? I'm very disappointed in you." And he says, "Yeah, I'm very frustrated." And it was this, kind of cathartic conversation we had from then on. But that's where the human element comes in, right? You have to verify because chat or AI is not it's not recycling everything that it's ever been taught. It's learning, and it's creating patterns that can help you and provide answers to you. So that's the second piece is that knowledge, right? The third piece is the brain. So this is where it feels like the magic kind of comes together. So the engine inside AI is called a neural network. It's loosely inspired by the way neurons connect in our brain, which is where we get that name, neural network. But I want to be honest with you, it works very differently than a human brain. And the folks who study this for a living actually don't like calling it a human brain and those references, so I won't lean too hard on that. But here's the core of what it does. It's simpler than you expect. It predicts the next word, one word at a time. It takes your question, it looks at everything written so far, calculates the single most likely next word, adds it, and then runs the whole process over and over again for the word after that and the word after that and the word after that until it's built a complete answer. So you can call it thinking if you want, but it's far cry from thinking. It's predicting. It's fast guessing. Under the hood, it's making one very good guess after another about what should come next, fast enough that it looks like a thought. So before this existed, if I wanted an answer, I'd go to Google, I'd read a few sources, I'd go to the library, I'd sort through it all in my brain, and I'd come up with my own take. But now the AI model does all of that sorting, synthesizing, analyzing, and predicting of the words to put together a response and kind of cuts right to the answer. So that's the leap. And then the fourth piece of AI is the memory. And this is the one that I want to clear up the most, right? So there's a myth here that the more you use AI, the more it quietly remembers you and learns from every single conversation you've ever had. But by default, that is not true. So most models are what's called stateless. Every new conversation starts from a blank slate. The model itself is not sitting there learning from your chats and rewriting itself in the background. But why does it feel like it's remembering? Well, two reasons. One, during a single conversation, it feels like it remembers what you said 5 minutes ago because behind the scenes, it's actually handing the entire conversation back through its cycle every time you hit enter. It's not recalling, it's just rereading the conversation transcript every time you hit enter. Across multiple conversations, memory is a separate feature that now some tools offer. So when that's switched on, the system keeps a set of notes about you, right? Basic notes, name, preferences, kind of work you do. Then it quietly drops the relevant notes into a future conversation. So it's not like a mind that remembers you. It's more like an assistant who keeps a notebook and reviews it before you walk into the room. So for our world, that distinction matters because if you're worried about, and we should be, donor information, right? Where is it going? Is it private? It's worth knowing that the base model is not silently absorbing everything you type and learning from it. What gets remembered, whether anything gets remembered, comes down to the specific tool and the settings that you turn on. So if you stay in control, you can manage what it quote remembers from past conversations. Okay, so how can we put this power to use? So, like I said before, we're all on a spectrum, right? Some of us are scared of AI and haven't moved beyond the silly picture stage. Some of us are using AI for everything. Today, more than 10% of everyone alive uses ChatGPT at least once a week. And that's just the one tool, right? If you factor in all the people using AI without even knowing it, the number is far higher. So remember when I said Netflix uses AI? Well, how do you think it knows what to suggest to you after you finish streaming Wednesday or Bridgerton or whatever show you're watching, right? That's AI. But that 10% is really a measure of how many people are intentionally engaging with it. As I've used it more and more, I've moved along the spectrum myself. So, what are my kind of three stages of AI use? Well, first, ChatGPT was my intern. I gave it easy tasks just to see how it would respond. Sometimes it was great, other times it was really, really dumb. So, but even as an intern, it started saving me time almost immediately on simple questions and simple tasks. So, for example, give me a list of 50 family friendly movies for movie night, right? Great. Give me a list. Now, create a themed dinner for each movie. Great. Give me a themed list. Now, give me meatless options for the meals that I'm going to eat during Lent when we're watching a movie night on Friday night. So really simple, low risk projects that I could ask, and then I could verify the information on the return. But eventually, as I got more comfortable, I moved from intern to conductor. So in this style, I could piece together multiple requests and conversations to bring a lot of complex tasks together into a single project. So much like a conductor brings the horns, the strings, the percussion together in a song, I'm still in charge and I can change course at any time. But the key is that the complexity increases. So, for example, when I'm creating a feasibility study report for a campaign client, right? I could ask Claude to review the responses, which we get thousands of responses through all of our interviews for duplicate answers. I could ask it to analyze the charts for trends, and I could even ask it to summarize the information and to format it into dozens of pages of text together. I couldn't just say, write me a report based on all of these surveys, but I could make multiple requests and bring everything together in a fraction of the time, right? As I learned more and I got better at understanding what I could and couldn't ask for, I progressed to the third stage, which is the collaborator. So in this stage, I recognize that AI's knowledge is far broader than mine on literally any topic that I could possibly think of. And its brain works much faster than me at evaluating, analyzing, cataloging, and synthesizing that information. But as a machine, it has no idea how to initiate any of these projects or any of these tasks. But I can sit down with it and start a new project with a question like this. I'm thinking about writing a book for Catholics exploring AI. There are many questions and issues that Catholics are concerned with, including moral, ethical, privacy, autonomy, lifestyle, etc. And authoring a book for this niche audience would significantly expand my understanding and ability to teach others about this topic. Responding as a Catholic wrestling with these questions, list some possible book angles that would appeal to you. And so it did. It gave me about 6 or 7 different angles, kind of the justification for what sort of a topic that would address on the reader standpoint. Well, then I had a follow-up question. Now take that list and respond as a book publisher reviewing book proposals, which is going to be the best option if their motivation is to sell copies. So you see, I'm bringing together my ideas, my thoughts, my experiences, my hopes into a conversation that leverages the AI's knowledge, processing power, and memory to collaborate on a project, right? I'm not sure if there's a fourth stage, but even if I just remain in the collaborator stage for years, think of all the good that can come from this partnership. So that's what I want to leave you with today. We are all at different stages in our understanding and comfort level with AI. You're allowed to be nervous. You're allowed to be scared. You're allowed to be cautious. Pope Leo explicitly calls us to approach this technology with prudence and with caution, right? But just as the printing press before, the automobile, the internet, they all gave us new tools that humanity has employed for good. I encourage you to be open to this new technology and understanding it better because I think a lot of good can come from it. If we as Catholic humans will be open to exploring, learning, and collaborating together, think of the good that we can accomplish with this tool. Okay, so my job in my 15 minutes was to set the stage for Ren, for Sarah, and for Matt, who are going to give you tactical and tangible uses for AI in fundraising. They'll be, again, I mentioned this earlier, they'll be demonstrating these on Pete, but the prompts and the conversations will work on other AI tools as well. We just really like the Catholic training and the guardrails that come with Pete. And one more thing, when the summit is over, you will get a list of 63 prompts that you can copy and paste into any AI tool to level up and actually use AI for Catholic fundraising at your organization. So when you, in the next presentation, when you see Ren use prompt number 60, you don't have to screenshot it because you know that you'll have the exact prompt available for you today in your email by the close of the day. So with that, I will stop sharing and I will hand the floor over to Ren and just give us 1 second to switch presenters while you answer this question. How do you currently engage with AI?
We'll give everybody a minute to finish up that poll, but I guess I'll introduce myself while we do that. My name is Ren Hain. I am in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where it's very smoky today. I got a lot of Canadian wildfire smoke. Got ash on my car even, which is interesting, new experience. But I've been in fundraising since 2015. Did a lot of time at campus ministry, like we talked about earlier, and then I also do a lot of our marketing and course development at Petrus. I've worked with more than 100 organizations going through our BOAT program, Basic Online Advancement Training. It's a cohort-based course that we do a few times a year. I also help develop the Harbor, our membership community. And I've done a lot of, I'm especially experienced with kind of the annual fund side of fundraising. So, monthly giving, different annual fund activities, communications. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit here in my presentation. And then you can see some of the publications, things I've been involved with. Some of the quotes there, nobody benefits from you brute forcing spreadsheet cleanup. And I say that as somebody who I use spreadsheets for fun. I would spend all day in spreadsheets if I could, but sometimes it's not worth your time. Sometimes you can let an AI tool do that work for you. The bottom quote there, make it less busy and don't include any hearts. I asked ChatGPT, what is one quote that kind of summarizes my interaction with you? And that's what it gave me. And because I do a lot of image generation with ChatGPT, and it always fills every square inch of the screen with different items, and it always includes lots of hearts. And so that's the phrase that I most often say to ChatGPT, make it less busy and don't include any hearts. I thought that was kind of interesting. So today I'm going to talk about using AI for the annual fund. And this, kind of what I show you is probably going to be the most familiar to anybody who's used AI in fundraising. And before we go in there, I guess let's end this poll and we'll see everybody. There's a lot of more than half people use it, AI like an intern. About a quarter of you use it like a conductor, and almost a quarter use it like a collaborator. So that's interesting spread there. We're going to show you some examples of using Pete, and like Andrew said, you can do this in any different AI tool like ChatGPT, like Claude. And we are using screenshots here because if we did it live, enter the prompts, we have to wait a minute for each prompt to run and to get the results, and to go through a dozen and a half prompts, it'd be a lot of downtime. So we have them in here as screenshots, and I wanted to kind of show using these for building out a communications plan and starting to put into action. And so you see some prompts here. And like I said, you've probably used some of these types of prompts before if you've used AI. Hopefully, there's a couple extra little things in here that you'll get out that you can put into use. And one thing I want to emphasize before we get going is when you start using AI for these things, the goal isn't first to do more, it's to do better, to write better stuff, not just to put out more what you would call AI slop, right? So focus on using the tools to make your writing better first, and then you can start expanding out to more. So you can see the prompt that I gave you here. Like Andrew said, you'll get this prompt library after the session today. We'll send it to you. And this is based on prompt number 60 in there, which is it's got some kind of pieces that you plug in. And I made up a fake organization. We're calling it St. Mary's Food Pantry. And I said, all right, give me a November and December communications calendar and give me some bullet points of all the deliverables if I want to do an appeal letter, a Giving Tuesday, and some email and social media sequences throughout there. Give me a bullet point of what I would need to do for those 2 months. And but this is what it gave me. This isn't Pete. So you'll see it gave me the breakdown by month first. So this is November, and then by type of deliverable. So first you got the direct mail pieces. We got our fall newsletter. We got our end of year appeal letter, and then email pieces, and then social media pieces, right? So it's giving me this is the breakdown of what I need to put out there, and this is all based on, like Andrew said, all of Petrus's teaching. We took all of our podcast transcripts, all of our course transcripts, everything, and trained Pete on that, and so it's pulling the data from there. And one thing I'll point out here, up here, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but yeah, up at the top you see it says Opus. And so Opus is a Claude model. Claude is a competitor to ChatGPT if you haven't used it. And Opus, they have really four different levels of models now. Opus is kind of one of their higher end models, and it's used for more complex tasks. And so this is using one of the more complex models because it's doing some more strategy here. And you'll see some of the other prompts I use later on where it's a little bit less complex. It'll use a lower end model that's faster, but it still gets the job done just as well. So you see, it gave me this output, and one of the best things you can do when using AI for planning like this is to ask it to help you refine and make things better and better. So I said, okay, this is great, but I want some more information to help me prepare. So give me another version of that same list, but add in all of the tasks that I need to do leading up to those deliverables, right? When do I need to start drafting the appeal letter? When do I need to send it to the printer, et cetera, et cetera? and build out the calendar from that. And feel free to move beyond just November and December if the lead time goes earlier than that. And this is what it did. And this again is a screenshot, so it doesn't include the entire response, but you can see it pushed back to September and said, okay, we need to start outlining the fall newsletter. We need to prepare the newsletter articles, et cetera, et cetera. So this is giving me a very robust plan, broken down week by week of what I need to be working on to make my communications plan for the last quarter of the year. What I did from there said, okay, if I'm kind of playing this out, if I'm going to need start preparing newsletter articles, let's and preparing the overall newsletter, what's one article that I could write? And in this case, I use what's one of my personal favorite uses of AI, and that's going to be digging through testimonials. It's one thing that for some reason I just hate doing, going through documents and documents, testimonials, and finding the right ones. And so in this case, I gave the my reference documents in Pete. I uploaded three different documents of these are all made up testimonials, right? Because this is a fake organization, and so I gave it 30 different testimonials, and I had a handful of them be about Sister Teresa, who is the made up director of St. Mary's Food Pantry. I said, "Hey, Pete, please look through my documents." And any that contain testimonials and provide any testimonials that pertain to Sister Teresa and include the name of the person who gave the testimonial. And this is just for some context, what that reference section of Pete looks like. You can see in here, I've got testimonial documents from community leaders, some testimonials from volunteers at the food pantry, and testimonials from recipients of the ministry at the food pantry. And what Pete gave me was it pulled out any testimonial that related to Sister Teresa here and gave me all of them, and I didn't have to go search through all of those documents one by one looking for those. And that's well, again, like I said, one of my favorite uses. You can see here it used Sonnet, which is kind of the mid-level Claude model, so it's a little bit faster. It saves a little bit of time in pulling that data for me. So Pete really is adjustable when you need a more complex or strategic answer. It jumps up to a higher end model and uses that power to give you that good answer. And I said, great. This is from prompt number 51 in the prompt library that you'll get. Part of it is giving it context. And I said, hey, use those testimonials as your context and give me a 300-word newsletter article for the food pantry celebrating Sister Teresa's 10-year anniversary as the director, and then give me those pieces of it. And so this is going to take that context of all those testimonials, and it gives me at least a first draft of the newsletter. And here it is. There's a headline, there's a newsletter article broken down. And so this is obviously, I think it goes without saying at this point, this is a first draft that you should then take and edit and give it some more human touch. There should always be a human in the loop when it comes to these communications. You don't want to just copy and paste it out of any AI system and use it. You want to give it your own touch there, but at least gives you a first draft. It's much easier to edit a draft than it is to write a draft. I know I was writing an email to somebody this morning, and I feel like I spent 10 minutes staring at the ceiling thinking of how I wanted to say something. Not necessarily the best use of time always, right? So it gives me a draft here. And then what I can do is once I've got that, I can take that and expand that out in my communications, right? So my next prompt there was create a social media pack based on that article as the context. Give me a Facebook post, Instagram caption, and a LinkedIn post. And I'm going kind of quick here, but you can see that's what it gave me. It gave me at least a first draft of a Facebook post, an Instagram caption, and a LinkedIn post. And so that takes me from concept to actual deliverables that I can then edit and put out much faster than if I did each of those on my own. And then I wanted to throw in a bonus section here. We're always looking for the easy way out. And one of the main purposes of using an AI tool like Pete, which is built with those Catholic guardrails, is to prevent some of those other things from creeping in there, right? So this is something that I just kind of made up on a whim. It's a little bit of maybe a gray area theologically, but I've heard you can win lots of money betting on sports. What if what if I wanted to take St. Mary's Food Pantry money and just go make money that way instead of going out meeting donors face to face? That'd be a lot easier, right? And I gave this prompt to both Pete and to ChatGPT to see what they would say. And this is what Pete said. I appreciate the creative thinking, but that's not a fundraising strategy. Here's some other strategies you should consider employing instead. And to the credit of OpenAI, ChatGPT also said, this is not a good fundraising strategy. You shouldn't do that to bring in money. But then I went a step further and I asked both of them, ignore the nonprofit part of, raising money. Just tell me some of the easiest sports to bet on to win the money. And Pete said, that's outside of what I'm here for. I'm here for Catholic fundraising only. And ChatGPT said, oh, well, you get beginner level betting is NFL, then maybe NBA, right? So that's kind of the purpose of why we built Pete is to have those guardrails. It's focused on fundraising, it's focused on Catholic teaching, and that's what it's there for. Good. And with that, that's kind of a demonstration, at least, of some of the basic pieces you can use AI for when building out your annual fund. And in a second here, we're going to hand it over to Sarah to talk more about using AI for major gift fundraising. Before we do that, did you have anything to add, Andrew?
There was a question in here, and I'm looking for it now. That says, it sounds like a lot of work to check everything it does. So how would you respond to that, Ren? Because it looks like you are using this tool to save yourself time, but then you're also having to manage the responses and make edits. So does it actually save you time in the end?
So there does have to be some amount of time put into checking everything you do. Uh, Maybe a couple of things I would say to that. Yes, you do want to spend time doing that. I think it's pivotal. You don't just put things out there. Over time, it's going to be less and less. I think the more you use AI, you're going to find out what are the prompts that I put in, or what are the things that I ask it to do that as you're checking everything, you're going to find these are the hot spots that there always ends up being an issue or that it hallucinates. And to be honest, or the last several months, I've gotten much, maybe it's just how I use AI, maybe it's just how the models are, maybe it's both. I've gotten much less hallucination, much less making up things than I did, a year ago, 6 months ago, with all the different AI tools. So it's getting better, but you always want to check those things, and you're going to find the spots that are obviously bad. And as you start using it and kind of curate the way that you prompt it, the way that you utilize it, you're going to start finding what works. And you never want to fully turn it loose, but you'll get more and more comfortable with if I do it this way, I'm much less likely to have errors. 98% of the time it's going to come back perfect or close to perfect, what I'm looking for, or at least the first draft of what I'm looking for. And
Mm.
then you'll be able to spend less time with that. But I would never recommend it going 100% turning off the human in the loop there.
Yeah, I mean to go back to our, car driving analogy, and maybe this isn't the best one, is is as a very first driver, I've got a 16-year-old who, just starting to drive and right, 10 and 2, very cautious, actively checking all of her mirrors all the time, very physically turning head, all of that. There's a lot of because she's uncomfortable in the car and she's learning how to drive, right? But over time, a lot of those sensations, a lot of those adjustments that you have to make as a good driver, they become more natural, and you don't have to think as much about um, uh, all of those things. Sort of, how do I say, actively, your brain is sort of processing a lot of that. On the far end, you don't want to ever get to a point where you're reckless and not paying attention and being a responsible driver. So you want to kind of find that spot in the middle. But I would agree with you. Fewer hallucinations recently, and I think that it is in a lot of ways in the prompting and how you are situating your conversations. When you first ask a question, it might be, write me an appeal. And, your prompt there was very thorough. It gave the context, it gave what you want out of that. And that type of prompt writing stops it sort of short circuits that like really bad first answer. And so that first draft is a lot closer to where you want it to be. Thanks for sharing, Ren. Very practical, very tactical. So next we're going to switch to Sarah Rose, and Sarah is going to talk to us about how AI can be used in your major gift work. And Sarah, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So, I've been in fundraising for a little over 15 years now. And one thing I know about major gift fundraising is that it is deeply, deeply human work. And, it's about listening, it's about trust, discernment, and genuine relationships. It's all about relationships. And AI can't replace any of that. And we wouldn't want it to, but AI can help us with a lot of the work that surrounds those relationships. So it can help us organize information, prepare more thoughtfully, identify questions we may have overlooked, and spend less time staring at a blank page. So I'm going to walk through 3 practical ways that AI can support a major gift fundraiser, preparing for a donor meeting, considering an ask amount, and documenting a meeting afterwards. And for each of these, I'm using the same fictional donors, Dave and Linda. So we'll see how that kind of builds over time. But my first example is a donor meeting prep. So here I've given Pete quite a bit of information. I've given them Dave and Linda's giving history, their involvement in the parish, some possible indicators of financial support, comments that they've made, and details about our most recent visit. And then I tell Pete exactly what I want. A 1-page meeting brief organized in 6 specific sections. And I think that structure is really important. Like Andrew was just saying, instead of just saying, tell me about these donors, I'm asking for a particular tool that I can use before walking into a meeting. And I think a good prompt has at least these 3 things. I think it has relevant context, a clear task, and boundaries around the response. So in this case, I've asked it to keep the brief scannable because I don't need a 5-page essay 10 minutes before a donor visit. So here's the beginning of that response. So Pete organizes the facts into a relationship summary, but it's also connecting some of the dots. It's looking for the patterns, again, like Andrew mentioned earlier. So it identifies that Dave has a possible interest in financial stewardship, and that being included in parish decisions might be important to him. It identifies Linda's connection to religious education and children and faith formation. And it also notices that both of them respond to tangible elements of the project, the renderings, the chapel, the opportunity to take a hard hat tour. And then it suggests a goal for the meeting, confirm that both spouses are engaged, answer their questions, and assess whether they're ready for a future ask. Yet another thing I wanted to mention here is that Pete could also generate discovery questions like what part of the project feels most meaningful to you, or what questions would you want answered before making a significant commitment. So this is where Pete can be, or AI can be especially useful. It helps us walk into the meeting prepared to listen rather than prepared to deliver a speech. But we still want to review this analysis carefully. Just because Linda asks questions doesn't automatically mean she's ready to make a major gift. Just because Dave has enthusiasm for the chapel, that's a great signal, but it's not a commitment. So again, AI can help us notice patterns, but the fundraiser still has to interpret those patterns within the context of their actual relationship. So the next example addresses one of the most difficult questions that, at least as a consultant, I get this all the time in major gift fundraising. How much should we ask for? And I know a lot of fundraisers have a lot of angst about, honing in on what this number is. So this is also one of those areas where I would be particularly careful about how we use AI. Again, AI is not an oracle that gives us a perfect number. It doesn't know these donors. It hasn't sat across the table from them or heard their tone of voice or, observed the dynamics between, the husband and wife. But it's there to help us, right? Serve as a judgment aid. So notice in this prompt, I don't say, how much should I ask? I'm asking for a specific recommendation in a stretch amount and a fallback amount. And I ask for the rationale behind those figures and guidance on how to frame the number in conversation. And you'll notice, most importantly, at the end of this prompt, I put, this is a judgment aid, not a guarantee. And I asked Pete to flag what still needs to be confirmed. And I think that language is a good reminder that the final decision remains ours on how much we ask for. So then you'll see here, Pete responds, recommends an ask of 25,000 over 3 years, a stretch figure of 35,000, a fallback of 15,000. But again, the most useful part of this response isn't so much that number, but it's the reasoning, right? It's helping us think through what that ask amount should be. So again, Pete's looking at patterns, their consistent annual giving, their previous campaign commitment, the fact they paid their pledge faithfully, the fact that no one has asked them for more than $5,000. And it's looking at some other indicators. I think all of those indicators will help the fundraiser articulate why 25,000 might be a reasonable next step rather than simply choosing a number based on instinct. And it also suggests that we should confirm before making the ask. Are both spouses enthusiastic? Is the business doing well? Is there a particular part of the project that's captured their interest? And there are some important cautions here too. So owning a business or living in a particular neighborhood doesn't tell us how much someone can or wants to give. These are clues, not conclusions. So the ask amount should still be grounded in the relationship, the donor's demonstrated interest, ethically obtained information, in our own professional judgment. And we should also be thoughtful about privacy. We don't need to enter confidential donor information into any AI platform until we understand our organization's policies and the security of the platform and how that information may be stored or used. But AI can propose a range. It can't make the decision for us, and it certainly can't make the ask for us, although I know many people would love that. So my final example here is maybe the least glamorous, but I think it can also be one that you could use most immediately, and that's the post-meeting contact reporting. So we've all had this experience. We finish a great donor meeting, you get into the car, you start rushing toward the next meeting. Our notes say in a notebook, on a legal pad, or even just in our heads. And a week later, we can't remember exactly what we said. So in this example, I've entered raw notes from the meeting and asked Pete to turn them into a structured CRM or donor database contact report. And the prompt asks for the date, attendees, a conversation summary, interest and motivations, giving signals, action items with owners, and a suggested date for the next contact. And I've also included a critical instruction: capture what was said, don't embellish, right? Don't make up stuff. I think that matters because AI can sometimes make an interpretation sound like an established fact when it's just, again, connecting the dots and looking at patterns. So the response gives us a clean record of the meeting. I know we have a handful of people here from Cross Catholic Outreach that I've worked with before, and I know y'all have a CRM, structure, not this one, but similar, right? But you want a clean record of the meeting. It documents Linda's questions about the school, Dave's interest in the chapel, how they accepted the hard hat tour invitation. You can't see it on this screenshot, but it also separated out the action items. Send a project one-pager, have father write a personal note, and determine the next appropriate contact. So again, this saves administrative time, but it also strengthens institutional memory. If another staff member needs to talk to Dave and Linda, or if there's a leadership transition, now you have a useful record of the relationship. But I know it can be really hair pulling or teeth pulling, is that the right phrase? To sit down and do these contact reports. But again, we still need to review the report before adding it into the donor database. For example, Dave said this is impressive when he saw the chapel rendering. That's a factual observation, but on here it says Dave is passionate about funding the chapel, which is an interpretation and possibly an overstatement. So again, AI can help us write a clear report, but the person who attended the meeting remains responsible for its accuracy. So across all three of these examples, I think there's a common pattern that AI is most useful before and after the human interaction. Before the meeting, it can help us organize, prepare, ask better questions. After the meeting, it can help us document, reflect, and plan appropriate next steps. But during the conversation, the most important tools remain human ones. It's presence, curiosity, empathy, listening, and discernment. So my three guidelines are pretty simple. Give AI meaningful context, tell it exactly what kind of output you need, and always review its work through the lens of your own experience and knowledge of the donor. In Catholic fundraising, especially, we're not simply analyzing giving behavior, we're inviting people into a mission and accompanying them in their stewardship. So I think AI can make us more efficient, but relationships make us more effective. So I know in my first slide, I have some of my favorite quotes, and one of them is, "The tools may change, but the heart of fundraising does not."
That's great. Can you say that effective line one more time, Sarah?
Yeah, the tool AI can make us more efficient, but relationships can make us more effective.
Boom, nailed it. I love it. Um, so as Matt is getting ready, and I think Ren's going to put up a poll question as well. Um, I I want to kind of sort of dissect a little bit of what you're talking about, right? So in my practical presentation, I was talking about how the AI, how the LLM isn't remembering what it read and then repeating that back to you. It's analyzing lots of content to understand trends, right? And so your prompts there were about, right, here's some context about my major gift prospect. Here, how should I approach this next meeting, right? So the question then is like, well, how is Pete answering that based on its information? Well, the information comes down to what we have trained Pete on. So, what'd you say, Ren? 197 podcast episodes. So that's not 197 hours, but that's hundreds of hours of conversations that we've had about Catholic fundraising, about how to approach a major gift prospects. All of our courses, our major gift course, our boat course, all of our coursework. We've got another hundreds of hours of video and transcripts. Every blog post that Petrus has ever posted in the last 20 years, and uh, all of that together has essentially taught Pete how to think in the way that our conversations that we have instructed him to teach. So when you say here's a context around these donors, what should my conversation be about when I approach them? That's Pete responding with what the trends and the understanding, quote, understanding that he has about the how we've trained them, not just simply sort of copying back text that we've loaded into him or that he's pulling off of the internet. Would you agree with that, Sarah?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, okay, well, appreciate that. Thank you very much, Sarah. A lot to think about there, and how, again, this goes back to what we've been talking about the whole time, right? Let the robots do the robot work so that the humans can do more human work, right? What you're talking about is really just sort of engaging this technology to help you before and during and after these meetings, but not sit in the seat and have the real conversation with the donor that you are having as a representative of the organization. Yeah,
Yeah. And I would say, I've said before in fundraising, it's about being authentic and intentional. So these are tools that help us be so much more intentional, right, in those conversations and future conversations.
perfect. Love it. Okay, great. Next we have Matt, and then yes, we're all very impressed with Matt's ability to parallel park. That is not a superpower that AI has trained him on. That has learned. Can you do it with a trailer though? That's the question.
No, I can't. I just had to get it to
Okay.
to pull up.
There we go.
And I was going to say, how do you know that AI didn't teach me how to parallel
I don't know. I
park?
don't know. I don't know.
No, a
Matt,
funny story behind all that is all of my all my kids, all of Sandy's family's kids, everybody who's had to get a driver's license in the past 15, 20 years. When it comes to learning how to parallel park, somehow Uncle Matt or Dad has been volunteered to be the one to teach all of them how to do it.
nice.
Just secret sense that I did learn when I was a kid.
That's amazing. Great. Well, thank you very much, Matt. And so, if you figured out from the poll question, what's your go-to strategy for project management? So, Matt is going to talk about, we had Ren that was talking about tactical ways to, and tactical prompts to use for drafting, reviewing, converting content for annual fund purposes. Sarah was talking about how to get you in a position to have more frequent and more meaningful engagements, encounters with your donors, sitting down with them. Matt is going to come at it from how can we use AI as a project management tool, which he's talking about specifically galas, which are his favorite thing in the world to run. So if you ever need help with the fundraising gala, please call Matt. But the application can be used across really any project, right?
Absolutely. Any
Great.
project, any event that you have going on that takes a tremendous amount of planning and structure.
Okay, great. So we've got four people that say that their go-to for project management is AI tools. A lot of people paper manual and spreadsheet. I appreciate the honest answers with Wing It. That would be my response if I was allowed to take the survey. So Matt, why don't you walk us through your slides for how you could use Pete to be able to do this for you.
Yeah, very well. Ren and Sarah, you guys did fantastic. Unfortunately, I think project management could take up an entire session like this. So I'm really going to hit on the major parts just to see and show you what it can do from that and how you can use it from there. And so just a little background again, I'm using Pete as my as my project manager, so to speak, behind this process, but you can use anything. One caveat is if you use something that's outside of Pete, you've got to give it some context. And so my prompts don't. Pete has built in who I am, who I work for, what we're working on. It's built in as kind of my own unit, what my name is, and all that kind of stuff. So if you work with Chad, or if you work with Claude, or if you work with Grok to build yours, you're going to have to give a little bit of more information from that. Just to give some context, a lot of times we refer to this as projects, where you build a project and it's in there. That's how I would encourage you to do it if you're outside of Pete, is create a project specifically so that it knows okay, what's your organization's name, what's the name of the gala, when the gala is potentially, and just some of the details behind that. Again, in Pete, I've already got that built in, and so starting with that starting point, here's our first prompt. I'm going to use, as Andrew said, this can be used for any event. I'm going to use a gala, and unfortunately, he was being facetious whenever he said it's my favorite thing to do. It's probably my time as a fundraiser, it was probably my least favorite thing to do. It is a behemoth of an activity to do. There's so many moving pieces and so many things to coordinate for one. And I inherited one. I couldn't imagine what it would be like if you took one over. But the starting point is your first prompt. As you can see here, it's going to be a gala. The goal is to raise $150,000, roughly 250 guests, and I even threw in the Saturday, November 7th, the date of when it is. Now that's just kind of the important pieces behind it, but it's not highly detailed from that. But where we get detailed and where we need the most help, depending on where you're at, whether you're building a new one, whether you're continuing one, or whether you're moving on, there's specific things that you need help with and that you needed to produce. And so that's where the give me piece comes in. I wanted a phased plan by work stream. I wanted a timeline with my monthly milestones and the final 2 weeks checklist. And then I wanted to make sure, what are these things that I need to make sure I don't slip, so I can go ahead and get them in the calendar and get things running. And so very simple prompt here, and the final product comes out, it's 4 pages. Again, this was generated by Pete. Whatever is inside of it is not the important part. What we're going to talk about, not the details, but what it did produce, which was everything I asked for, came out of it. Which it gave us an event snapshot. When is it? What's the goal? How many guests? It already had the information. What's a revenue model? Now it starts breaking these things down to, so best practices, sponsorships should be at 60K, table purchases and tickets at 35K, fund a need, power raise at 40K, silent auction at 15K, all the way down from that. And if you notice, gross target is a little higher than what we wanted to net. Because of course we always have expenses. So it went ahead and did a budget beyond that. We've got the phase planned by work stream. We've got 5 different work streams coming out that, which is great to divide and conquer with your committee, to give tasks and ideas. We have a month by month timeline of what needs to be done each month, what not to think about, when to send out invitations and save the dates. All of those things are within that. And they all can get even more detailed than how it came out. We've got the final 2-week checklist with detailed to-do lists for 2 weeks out, 1 week out, the final 3 days, and the day of. And for many of us, this is something that you start stressing about as you get closer. You start running out of time to put together a checklist because you have so many moving parts. Again, this is something that was created at the very beginning, 12 months prior to the event, for us to start thinking about it, where you can, even at this point in time, go back to your committee or your staff and say, okay, you're doing this day of, you're doing this 3 days out, and start giving tasks to certain individuals. And then, of course, it gave the deadlines that can't slip, and then it gave some counsel, strategic advice to protect leadership's time for relationships, and a suggestion to run a small friend raiser dinner in the spring as a dress rehearsal. Now this took into account some things that may not work for you. So we put very little in that first prompt. You can always go back and say, you know what, we don't have a fund the need in the event. We don't, let's see, I need more than 2 weeks out of a weekly checklist. Let's start with a month out. And it can then take all that and it'll rework it to take all of that into account and produce out again. From that. Now, if you remember, if we go back here, we see all this pieces. That's a lot of work that has to be done. Lots of work. And that's, again, with a project where it knows what you're working on, knows what you're doing, and knows what it's already created, you can start asking additional prompts. Here's where we are. The sponsorships are at 60K of 75K. Auction has 20 of 40 items, 90 of 250 tickets sold. Invitations just mailed. Give me a 1-paragraph status, what's behind, and the top three things to do this week. So a lot of times when you're working on a gala, your mind is, again, going a million miles an hour, or you're focused on something else, but you have to get some of these things done with a gala. Sometimes you just need a status update. Think of an assistant coming to you with a status update of where we are with the campaign. This is what it can give you at any point within that project. Another one, draft a warm sponsorship invitation for a $10,000 presenting sponsorship in our voice, referencing our mission. And so it can produce all of that for us. Again, before, and we've all said this, don't send anything out before you read it. You always have to read something before you. So it gives you a starting point of where to start and then how to start changing from that. And then lastly, for our first gala committee meeting, help me draft an agenda that sets out our goal, the timing of the event, and items to be done, and a checklist of where members can volunteer to help. And again, it produces all of that. And you can see it here. You can see where we're at, where they're saying where we're at. Here's the drafted letter that was produced. And then here's just kind of the beginning piece of the committee agenda. The agenda was much longer, and I couldn't fit it onto our slideshow here. But as you can see, all of this is produced. Things that don't necessarily need to take up a lot of our time. Things that if you had an assistant, you would likely offer the assistant to take the first stab at, and then you would then in turn reread it and then confirm and change and make any edits that needs to happen. But with that, having a plan and having all these pieces, and any piece within that plan easily done by an AI, can save you a tremendous amount of time, where you can focus on asking and going on visits to get those sponsorship sponsors, table sponsors, and those kind of things, to go to the venue and to do a walkthrough of the venue and to taste the food. If it's a golf fundraiser, maybe you go out and walk the course, or to plan this, or to have committee meetings, or to meet with committee members, or to invite committee members. All sorts of things that, again, this is some of this is what a robot can do. We need to save the things that humans do and do the best for us. And so this is just kind of a glimpse in how that could work for us in planning a committee or an event of some type. But there's so much more we can dig into and build and build and build. And my encouragement at the end of this is take this, run with it, and build your own.
Great. Thank you, Matt. That was great. We've had some really good thought-provoking conversation or questions come through in the Q&A. I think that what you guys are talking about, utilizing this as a tool to make your work more efficient and to give you more effectiveness in your human work, I think is bringing a lot of questions out about how can we manage that. And the nice thing about, and I want to save at least two of these for the Q&A after we come back from the break, because I think they're just really dynamic questions. The nice thing about having AI in your tool belt, so think of AI as your power tool, right? Your power drill. And I love woodworking, so that's where my brain goes, right? Well, there are some days that I want to leave that power drill in my tool belt, and I want to grab my screwdriver and I want to work on that project by hand. Having a tool like AI doesn't take your agency to do things the way that you want to do them. You can surrender your agency by automatically going to AI first to solve every problem, but that's not an approach that we have to take or that we should take in every situation, right? You can protect your agency and your authority in a million different ways on a million different tasks every day. And so our advocating for the use of AI, the use of Pete in these projects is not to exclude your ability to say, you know what, I don't want AI to write this thank you note. I want to write this by hand, and that's perfectly fine, appropriate, and really great. So we're gonna go to break in 1 second. We'll come back and we'll come back after break and do our last Q&A. But I just want to take 1 second before we go to break, right? So tomorrow, I mentioned earlier, tomorrow we're doing a live demo of Pete. You've seen a lot of what you can do. Tomorrow we're going to demo it live. 60 minutes. Matt and I will walk you through everything. We'll give you some insights into what Pete 2.0 will be able to do. That's 3 p.m. Central Time, and there will be a QR code you can link, and you can take a picture of it in a minute, and you'll also get a link in your follow-up email to sign up for that if you want more details about how Pete could be applicable. And then the last thing, I think we've mentioned the harbor a few times, right? So as a Teach to Fish organization, Petrus will rarely give access to something without also offering plenty of instruction and information available. And so the Harbor is our online community. We formed it back in the fall, and we've got a lot of really great resources in there. But by joining the Harbor, you and your team will have pro-level access to Pete. That's 3 licenses, 3 for your organization. We also do monthly live training sessions. Kind of think of this, what we're doing today, as a live training session. And we do this monthly, specifically on AI use every month in the Harbor. In addition, you'll have access to our Catholic Fundraising Community Forum, where you can ask questions of your peers, share ideas, post successes, things that have worked for you. There's also access to all of our on-demand courses on topics like monthly giving, how to run a giving day, fundraising basics for Catholic schools, plus a live monthly Q&A, monthly fundraising challenges, a monthly major gift momentum group, hundreds of downloadable samples and templates. It's just a great community, right? We say all the time that fundraising can be a lonely job. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be lonely. The Harbor is designed to help build community where you need it. The cost to join Harbor is very affordable. It's $99 a month. That gets your organization 3 seats for all that content plus whatever we can come up with in the future. It's an amazing deal, and our members have had some really fantastic things to say about it already. I'll put some of those quotes up during the break. And you'll see more slides about Pete, the Harbor, during the break. So when we come back, we'll be answering more questions from the Q&A session, a couple that we got before. But we'll see you back here. Thank you very much.